हरि ओम्। गुणातीतमानं चिदानन्दरूपं चिदाभासकं सर्वगं ध्यानगम्यं। गुणातीतमानं चिदानन्दरूपं चिदाभासकं सर्वगं ध्यानगम्यम्। मुनिर्ध्येयमाकाशरूपं परेशं परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। परब्रह्मरूपं गणेशं भजेम। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। नमस्ते. Welcome to session 49 of Bhagavad Gita verse by verse. In today's session, we are going to enter the topic of bhakti, and more specifically Sakama Bhakti, which is the stepping stone for Nishkama Bhakti. Dr. Kiran, Dr. Sandhya, Sri Satvik, Colonel Vijayan, and Dr. Sundar will help us to understand this. Dr. Hegde sir will fill the gaps, if any. First, let us listen to Sri Shiv Kumar, who will give us a brief recap of verses 7.13 to 7.17. Over to you, Mr. Shivakumar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. From 4th to 12th verse, Lord Krishna explained Ishvara Swarupam, consisting of Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti. In the 13th verse, he analyzes why human beings suffer in this world. When everything is God, samsara karanam kim. Why is there a sense of incompleteness, feeling of lacking, uneasiness, and insecurity? Diagnosing the samsara karanam or the bhava roga disease, he says that many do not even attempt to know the paraprakriti because the enthralling aparaprakriti endowed with the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas, keeps humanity deluded with such things as love, hatred, and attachment, wheeling the consciousness and entrapping with short-lived bodily pleasures. Krishna says that the distracting power of Aparaprakriti being so strong, we lose sight of Paraprakriti, the higher nature, just as in the hand example, we miss the light principle, and in the movie example, we lose sight of the changeless screen. Hence, Lord says that the world does not know me. It is losing sight of Paraprakriti. In the next shloka, 14, explaining the solution or samsara parihara, in the first line, Krishna says, this Aparaprakriti also belongs to me. Though it is dependent on Paraprakriti, it takes the human mind away from Paraprakriti and strongly embeds the mind on Aparaprakriti itself. This Aparaprakriti or Maya with its own intellect, more so with its three gunas, is so powerful a deluding principle that one can never transcend it with their own intellect. More so, as we will not be even aware that we are deluded. In the second line, the Lord says, the only solution for samsara is to humbly surrender to me with bhakti and pray for Ishvara Krupa. Ishvara Krupa alone to cross over this Maya. Ishvara will bless them a Guru, Guru will give them Shastram, and Shastra will hand us over to ourselves to discover that security ultimately is within ourselves. The key word here is prapattihi. It means the same as bhakti or sharanagati, and this is the solution. In verse 15, Krishna says, the evildoers with deluded intellect, the vilest of men, deprived of wisdom by illusion of Maya, follow their lower nature and adopt ways of demons, cruelty, untruth, and the like. Such people with just enough good karma, though born human, do not have sufficient punya to be born in a family with culture to seek moksha or Bhagavan or Shastra. Such mean, indiscriminate people are born in an Artha Kama Pradhana cultured family, and they strive for the lowest of things, desiring for more and more, compromising dharma, and some even adopting illegitimate means to satisfy their greed. They waste their human life just as using sandalwood for fuel. Such are the most unfortunate people, and they do not surrender to me. In verse 16, Krishna says, there are some who are Punyavan. He says, O Bharatar Sabha, best among the Bharatas, based on their motive, there are 4 types of virtuous people who surrender to me: Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu, and Gnani Bhaktas. Artha Bhakta are crisis Bhaktas who develop devotion and approach. Next slide, sir. Who approach God to get liberated from pain, crisis, distress, or difficulty. Artharthi Bhaktas are those who look to the Lord for Sukha Prapyartham, do special pujas or homam, either for getting or getting rid of something. Both Artha and Artharthi are Manda or Sakhama Bhaktas. For them, God is not an end, but God is only a means. Jignasu Bhakta is a seeker of knowledge of the real nature of God, of bondage and moksha, with questions like, who am I? Who is God? What is this world? Why am I here? They pursue the path to God, Nishkama Bhaktas, for whom God is the goal and not a means. Gnani Bhakta is Uttama Bhakta, who is aware of his own divine nature, totally immersed in Ishvara, knows he is one with God, and for them, God is neither the means nor the end. Swamiji says, though bhakti is classified into 4, there is no choice, but simply it is 4 levels of bhakti which everyone passes through. In the next verse 17, Krishna Bhagavan says, among the 4 types of bhaktas, Gnani Bhakta, being ever steadfast with undivided devotion to me, is Vishishyate, superior. Normally, in this world, one dearest to anyone is he himself. But for a Gnani, God is very dear to him, and at the same time, Gnani is very dear to God. This simply means God and Gnani have become one. In the next verse to be presented today, he clarifies that whatever the reason for devotion, all devotees, including the other 3, Artha, Artharthi, and Jignasu, are privileged and blessed ones. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Shiv Kumar, for giving us a very nice summary of the verses that we studied in the last class. With this, we have a very nice evolution of our understanding of the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. As we come to the second last class on the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, we will quickly review this entire chapter, what we have gone through. Krishna begins this chapter and a new Shatkam with a promise. The promise is, I will introduce my true nature and you will get to know me completely. In medicine, we have a phrase which says, what the mind does not know, the eye does not see. That means only a trained person is able to recognize a certain disease. So too, Krishna helps us to recognize the presence of God by giving us the knowledge of God. So he introduces 2 terms. What is Jnanam and what is Vijnanam? I will give you Jnanam, which is knowledge about my lower self, which you can easily see and experience. I will also give you knowledge of my higher self, which is actually the one who is seeing within you. With this, we have a certain fundamental principle in Vedanta that we need to be sure about the seer in me and whatever I see. The seer in me is the knowledge of the higher form of God, the sense of consciousness, and whatever seen is the lower form of God. This is exactly the same way how Mundaka Upanishad begins with one of the most brilliant questions in the whole world of the Upanishads, where a prepared student comes to the teacher and says, "My Lord, O Bhagavan, what is that knowing which everything or whatever worth knowing is known?" God is introduced to us at 3 levels. One is God with form. The second is God as the world. And third, as the formless or God without any attributes. Now, as you will see, each level of understanding happens only when there is a greater evolution in the student. This is very well brought out by Hanuman in describing his relationship to Sri Rama, where he says, as a body, I am your servant, I am your dasa, I see you as the Lord and I am the servant. About this, I am very clear. As an individual soul, I see myself as a part and you are the whole. But as Atma, as consciousness, I see no difference. I see you and me are one and the same. And this is my firm conviction. And this is a wonderful way for us to understand Ekarupa, Anekarupa, and Arupa. Krishna begins to tell us his true nature. He says, I am the source of this entire universe. The word Krishnasya means the entire universe. I am the womb, the source from which this entire universe has come into being. It is sustained and the whole world goes back into me. Krishna also teaches us to be very sensitive to the invisible form. I am Mai sarvam idam protam sutre manigana eva. Just like in a garland or in a necklace, you don't see that common string that holds everything together. I am that invisible principle that keeps the whole world together. In order to give us certain exercises, he says each time you drink water, remember I am the taste of water. Whenever you see any light, I am the light in the sun and the moon. We are studying the Vedas. We are studying the scriptures. The essence of the scriptures is Pranava or Omkara. So too, I am the essence of everything. Whenever you hear any sound, you can hear me there. Once we have a vision of this Vishwarupa Ishvara very clear in our mind, one thing is very common. I see so much of suffering around. And then Krishna gives you a method of giving us a diagnosis. If there is God and godliness everywhere, why is there so much of suffering? And this is the essence of all Vedanta, that it is all because of avidya. It is because of ignorance. Shri Krishna introduces Maya. There is something in me called Maya. This Maya has a certain Shakti, 2 forms. One is called the Avarana Shakti. Because of the concealing nature, although God and godliness is everywhere, this is concealed from us. We are not able to directly see it. Second is, because we are not able to see our true nature as divine, we have a mind which is able to project a sense of limitation. And Sri Krishna says, this is the cause of all the problem. If this is the cause of all the problems, Shri Krishna gives us a remedy. He says, become a bhakta. And not only become a bhakta, he says he gives us a step ladder. Initially become an artharthi. Then we need to graduate from artharthi to jignasa. That is exactly what we are doing. We are trying to find out who is this God and trying to use the scriptures to give us jignasa, to give us knowledge about God. And once this knowledge becomes integrated into a system, a person becomes a jnani. And that is the whole journey. We concluded our last class with verse 17. Verses 17, 18, and 19, so the 2 more verses in this class that we are going to study, are what we can call the Sthita Prajna portion of the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And if you become more sensitive, in each chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you will get certain portions where Shri Krishna brings something very similar to the Sthita Prajna portion that we studied in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. These three verses should be remembered as goalpost verses. What do you mean by goalpost verses? These three verses should give us a clear definition of what is my goal by studying the scriptures. And as we are studying, once in a while when we see these verses, it is a reference for us that I am in the right direction. Just like when we are going on a pilgrimage to a remote place, the moment we see a signboard, we are still far away from our goal, but we now know we are in the right direction. So these verses, verses 17, and the two verses that we are going to study today are the verses where Sri Krishna reveals his true self once again, which we see again in the Bhagavad Gita, which we see the Bhagavad Gita Sarvopanishado Gavo. It is milked from all the Upanishads. And you see so much of the Mundaka Upanishad. In Mundaka Upanishad also the teacher talks of para and apara vidya. And then there are certain beautiful verses about creation, which comes in Bhrigu Yato va imami bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayatyanti vimashyanti, tad vijnasa tad brahmeti. That is Brahman. This is what is called the Tatastha Lakshana. That means from the creation, we have to move to the creator. Once we become ardent students, we will look for all. There are three sources. That is the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and then there is the Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is a very difficult. But then as students who want to know, we have the whole Brahma Sutra simplified or given to us in the first 4 verses of the Brahma Sutra. And this is the Sutra number 2, which goes like this Janmadyasya Yataha. So these are extremely cryptic, but once they are analyzed, they talk exactly the same thing what we are learning in these chapters. So what all these remind us is, I am here to become a Jnani Bhakta. I will do whatever is required to get that knowledge. If that knowledge is going to be in a language which I'm not so familiar, let me make whatever effort I can to be able to understand the language of Sanskrit, so that instead of reading the translation, if I'm able to get the understanding of the words more directly. With this background, let us look into these verses. The opening verse 18 will be explained to us by Dr. Kiran. Over to you, Dr. Kiran.
Namaste. Welcome. Gurubhyo Namaha. Previously, we studied different types of bhakti. Naturally, 2 types of questions come to our mind. One is, which bhakti is best so that we can pursue? Another, what is the fate of other bhaktas? Krishna answers these questions. Udaraha sarva evaiti jnani tvam atmaiva me matam astitaha sahi yuktatma mameva anuttamam gati. This is a Mahavakya shloka. So let us dwell into the beauty of its meaning. Next slide, please. Udaraha sarva evaiti. All these devotees are noble. Prahlada is considered to be one of the examples of Jignasu Bhakti, or he was a Gnani even at childhood and he used to share this knowledge. And when Lord Narasimha appeared and asked him what boon he wants, he said, only your presence is enough for me, nothing more I need. He is a epitome of Gnani Bhakti. Whereas Dhruva, who also is a noble person, he had a arthartha or some wish to be granted from the Lord. But according to Krishna, both these people are noble. Udaraha, he says. So the promise of Krishna is, there is no durgati for bhaktas, or the person who is on spiritual path. So Gnani tva atma eva. Next slide, please. So he says Gnani is identical with me. Why? Other bhaktas, there is a Veda or difference between him and God. So the love towards God is conditional only. We should understand devotion is love at its peak. The best form of devotion is envisioning God as the self or Atma Swarupa, appreciating Him in and through everything, including me as the very consciousness itself. So, this is the highest form. So, all are Jignasus like Prahaladas. What about others? So, let us take the example of Vedara Kannappa. He is to start with an Arti Bhakti. He wanted food, that's why he went and prayed the Lord. Later on, once he appreciated that, he turned it into a Karma Yoga. Whatever he got, he shared with the Lord, and then he also appreciated and gratitude the Lord. When Lord wanted to test him and appeared, and there was blood in his eyes, the Kannappa decided to donate his own eyes to him. There was no difference between him and the God to him. Even though when he was able to take the second eye, he knew that he will not just see the God, but he knew in him that he and God is not separate. So this is a natural progression from Arti Bhakti, Artha Bhakta to Jignasu Bhakti. That's how we should do. So can we, like him, shut our eyes to the pleasure of the ephemeral world and seek the Lord? Like Meera, for whom even the richest of the palaces paled in front of her pining for Krishna. Gatim astitaha. So a person or a bhakta has examined life as it were and has chosen me as the only goal. That is gatihi, and not because somebody else says so. Such a person definitely is called Yutatma. And he says, Ma eva anuttamam. Anuttamam means the highest. Anu is a beautiful word. It is often repeated throughout Gita. Anu is without any filters or preconditions. So for a Gnani Bhakta, he considers God as Purushottama without any preconditions. That is total Sharanagati or surrender. Important caveat here is these type of bhakti should come as a natural progression through knowledge and understanding. Merely telling that I am Parabhakta, Advaitin is not enough. God as Atma, Brahma, Swarupa, and Abheda should be a direct knowledge. So on spiritual path, bhakti should be allowed to mature through knowledge and clarity. And without surrender and Shraddha, this is impossible. This is me matam, that is my steadfast opinion. So Lord says, all these devotees are certainly noble. However, Gnani Bhakti is identical with me because with steadfast mind, he has chosen me alone as his highest goal. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Kiran, for giving us a very nice explanation of such an important verse. As I said, verses 17, 18, and 19 are the key verses. You will see some of the most beautiful verses. Shri Krishna says, Me matam. This is my opinion. And what is my opinion? All the bhaktas are great. But of all of them, I will consider the Jnani to be the greatest, and he is the highest. And when Shri Krishna puts the Jnani in such a high pedestal, let us make all our efforts to get Brahma Vidya so that we evolve from Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu to a Jnani Bhakti. Another verse on the similar theme, Dr. Sandhya, please.
Hari Om. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavam Mam Prapadyate Vasudevah Sarvam Iti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many births of spiritual practice, one who is endowed with knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be all. Such a great soul is indeed very rare. In this verse, Bhagavan is talking in detail about the fourth stage of bhakti, that is Ajnana Bhakti. Now, why is this so important for us? It is important for the sadhaka because this Jnani Bhakti has attained the goal of his life. He has attained the goal of his sadhana. He has become a mukta, and he is the ideal bhakta and the most dear to Sri Krishna. The other important part of knowing what a Jnani Bhakti is is that because they are so rare, if we do happen to encounter one, we should use him to improve our own sadhana and try to clarify our doubts and become a jnani in this very life itself. There are many areas of this verse which are extremely important, which Bhagavan stresses. First of all is Bahanam Janmanam Mam Prapadyate, as also the word Vasudevaha. And we will look at all these one by one. What has this Jnani done? He is the fourth stage of the Bhakta. His knowledge has led him to liberation. He has had Ishvara Prapti. He has undergone Shravanam, Upadesha from the scriptures and the Guru. He has removed all his doubts. Mananam, he has had Nididhyasanam. He has had a complete cognitive change. He is alert to his true self. No longer does he think of himself as the limited body mind. Now he knows that he is the Jnani and he is the Satchidananda that God himself is. So his knowledge has led him to liberation, and this is a Jnani Bhakta. Why does Bhagavan say that the Jnani Bhakta is exalted and rare? Let us look at him. The Artha Bhakta, the Artharthi Bhakta, and the Jignasu have been mentioned earlier as also having a sense of duality. They look upon themselves as different, as God is different, and they're trying to achieve something in this life. But this Jnani has completely identified himself with the non-dual Satchidananda Atman and God himself by Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. And therefore, he has merged and attained oneness in God or Sri Krishna himself. And this is what Bhagavan is talking about, Mam Prapadyate. Surrendering means merging, attaining oneness in God. Therefore, he is secure, he is fulfilled, and he is happy because no other circumstance in life is required for his ultimate happiness at all times. And indeed, this type of a Mahatma is not only exalted, he is extremely rare, as we can all imagine when we are all sadhakas. This verse also stresses another point, and that is time. And as we know, sadhana takes maturity, devotion, commitment, faith, steadfastness, and a sincerity that is required for sadhana, even when ups and downs come, not only in our physical life, but also in our spiritual life. And we must understand that surrendering takes time. And it may take a few years, it may take a few months, and it may take a few lives, depending upon the situation and the circumstance of each individual. And therefore, we should not be in a hurry, and we also should not be disappointed. What does this bhakti have? This bhakta is also the greatest bhakta. He is also the greatest jnani. He has the right understanding and unconditional love because he understands that God is Satchidananda Rupa. He is not only the finite personal form of Sri Krishna, but the infinite Brahman, that is Satchidananda at all times. Not only is he got that idea of God himself, his own self is also Satchidananda Rupa. So he has this universal vision of God, the single cause of everything, and also is everything itself. So everything in the world has got only one component, that is existence, knowledge, and bliss. This word is also mentioned when he talks about Vasudeva Sarvam. Here, Vasudeva does not mean Lord Krishna. Vasu is interpreted as Sat Rupa Brahman, existence, Devaha as Chit Rupa Brahman, which is consciousness. And so the word Vasudeva, very importantly, does not mean the physical form of Lord Krishna. It means Sat Rupa, Chit Rupa, Satchidananda Brahman. So Vasudeva is the goal, Vasudeva is the means, Vasudeva is the path, as also Vasudeva, our own destination. And he has understood existence, essence, activity, formless God is the source as also the form of creation. Indeed, the whole world is only one Satchidananda Rupa at all times. He has become a Jivan Mukta, and of course, therefore, he is merged with the Lord. And naturally, being one with the Lord, he is the favorite of Lord Krishna also. because both are ultimately one and the same. So let us hope that we will be able to learn from these bhaktas as also these jnanis and improve and go very well on our path of sadhana.
Thank you, madam, for a very nice explanation of another key verse. This is the end of these three verses, which are the goalpost verses. Whenever you see a jnani, this verse says it is extremely rare to see a jnani bhakta. And therefore, and this jnani comes after a punya of bahunam janmanam ante. That means because of the punyas of so many lives such a person is being. Once in a while, we get to see jnanis, we revere them, we respect them, we make photos of them and keep them in the house. But Gautama Buddha has said, if even one person can become a jnani, it is everybody's potential. Just to see how this jnani, who was a human being, has attained what? Can I work in this life itself? And therefore, sometimes these verses may discourage that it takes so many lives to become what we are. Can we say, I have gone through so many lives. That is why I have got manushyattvam. I have got human birth. I have got mumukshutvam. All of us have that keen desire for Brahma Vidya. And we have great acharyas who are available. So this verse is talking about us. And finally, this word, Vasudeva. Dr. Sandhya has very beautifully explained this verse. This verse should be our goal. That means whatever, just like we have that word, Mattaha Parataram Nanyat Kinchid Dasti Dhananjaya, my Sarvam Idam Protam. I see Shri Krishna everywhere. Now I will give you a new word. I see Vasudeva everywhere. Whenever we study the Upanishads give a lot of stress for situations like this, which are occasionally there in the Bhagavad Gita, and therefore a complete study would be a study of certain principal Upanishads along with the Gita. As nicely explained, the word Vasudeva can be split into two. Vasate means existence. Whatever I can see is Brahman in the form of Sat, or Brahman in the form of existence. Who is seeing me? It is the consciousness that sees. The word Deva means illuminator. Deva also means sense organs. All our Devas are blessed by divine principles. So that is why it is also called Deva. Shiva is called Mahadeva, the light of all lights. So Deva represents consciousness, which is here in me, and the world outside is existence. So Vasudeva is a brilliant word which says conscious existence. Our true nature is conscious existence. Whenever consciousness and existence come together, we experience Purnatvam and Anantatvam or Ananda. When we wake up, our mind separates consciousness and existence. I see existence outside, I see my body as existent, and I see I am conscious. Whenever consciousness and existence are separate from one another, we experience samsara, we experience limitations. But through Brahma Vidya, we know I am that one conscious existence which has separated seemingly for the sake of drama, for the sake of entertainment, and the world around me is none other than Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam. It is an extension of me. Through this Brahma Vidya, when I see the world, as Bhagavan says, how to treat others, there are no others. This whole world is none other than an extension of me. This understanding is the understanding of the highest form of a bhakta or a para bhakta which we are working for. Now, to come to that level, there are many steps involved. We will see how we can move from Sakama to Nishkama. That will be explained to us by Satvik Shetty. Over to you, Satvik.
Thank you. Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Kamaistaistaihritaඥānaha prapadyante devata tam niyamamasthaya prakritya niyata svaya. In this verse, Krishna is going to classify bhakti broadly into two types, Sakama Bhakti and Nishkama Bhakti. Now, Bhakti, we all know, stands for devotion or worship of God. Sakama Bhakti means using Bhakti as a means for accomplishing a finite goal of life. Now, in the Shastras, all the finite goals are classified as Artha, Kama, and Dharma Purusharthas. Artha means all types of material wealth. Kama means all forms of pleasures. And Dharma means all forms of punyam which will take a person to higher lokas after death. According to Shastras, all the higher lokas are also finite in nature. Therefore, Artha, Kama, and Dharma all will come under the finite goal. We can say that anything other than God is finite goal, because God alone is beyond time and space. Now, there is a second type of bhakti, which is called Nishkama Bhakti, where there is no desire for the finite end, but there is a desire for the infinite. Nishkama Bhakti does not mean a total desirelessness. It means there is a desire, but the desire is towards the infinite or the God. Krishna wants to say in this verse that both the bhaktis are okay, but ultimately you should know that Nishkama Bhakti is superior to Sakama Bhakti. And ultimately, you have to come to Nishkama Bhakti alone. Next slide, please. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is finite because he has a date of birth, he also has a date of death. But he symbolizes the infinite. And all the other gods represent finite. All the Anya Devatas symbolizes finite goals of life. Next slide, please. And therefore, in this verse, Sakama Bhakti will be represented as Anya Devata Bhakti. And Krishna Bhakti will be presented as Nishkama Bhakti, where the goal is Krishna alone, Krishna the infinite. But any finite Devata can represent the infinite. It depends on our invocation. For example, in Shiva Purana, Shiva is infinite. In Bhagavad Purana, Vishnu is infinite. Now, there are some bhaktas who are interested only in the finite ends. For example, we worship goddess Lakshmi to get wealth. We also worship Lord Ganesha to remove all the obstacles. Because of this, their discriminative power is obstructed. Even if the finite desires are fulfilled, they cannot give you lasting happiness because these objects of desires are themselves temporary. And then we end up performing all the pujas, rituals, and customs to please Anya Devatas to achieve our finite goals. Therefore, in this verse, Krishna says, because of raga and dvesha, people are enslaved by their own karma. In the next verse, Krishna will dwell more into Sakama Bhakti. Thank you, Guru.
Thank you, Satvik. Thank you, Satvik, for a nice explanation. We see there is a change in the topic. The topic now is the two forms of bhakta. One is called, as nicely explained, what is Sakama and what is Nishkama. Personally, I find this very useful. Is means or is God the goal? We can use it either way. God as a means I have a difficulty. I have artha, I go to God, I get my problem solved. I have artharthi, I have a certain requirement for material goods. I go for the Lord and I get that. So is God for me the service provider, or is God the goal? How do I make that shift? I experience a certain difficulty. Every difficulty is a signboard that helps me to lead to God. And then what happens once I experience godliness? What is my prayer? Two things: Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha, or give me the prayer to accept thy will very cheerfully. This theme will go on in the next two verses, which will be explained by Colonel Vijayan. Over to you, sir.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Verses 21 and 22 speak about Shraddha and Bhakti in Anya Devatas. A quest for security, peace, and happiness defines one's goals. A Sakama Bhakta seeks only finite material ends and hence defines his goals as dharma, artha, and kama. And to achieve these ends, he propitiates various devatas for a finite result. Sri Krishna says that there is nothing wrong in worshipping the finite devatas for a finite result, and their worship is valid and their desires will be fulfilled. However, it may seem to the Sakama Bhaktas that their desires are being fulfilled by the devatas, but in effect, it is Sri Krishna blessing the Bhaktas through the devatas. The devatas are postmen for Sri Krishna. Krishna says that whatever be the mode of worship or the form of worship, everything reaches me. Akashat patitam toyam yata gacchati sagaram sarvadeva namaskaraha keshavam pratigacchati. As water that falls as rain anywhere from the sky finally reaches the ocean, the worship of any divine aspect ultimately reaches me, the Supreme Being. The liberty to invoke the infinite in the finite deity rests with the Bhakta. It may be compared to invoking the spirit of an entire nation by the use of national flag. And if you invoke the infinite in the Krishna form, Krishna becomes infinite God for one. And if one is a Ganesha Bhakta, Ganesha will represent infinite by similar invocation. Swami Chinmayananda, while explaining this verse, says that God does not fulfill one's desire as a gift package, but bestows one with the faith and strength to pursue one's goal. Coming to verse 21, Yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha shraddhaya architam ichchati tasya achalam shraddham tame vidatmayam aham. Yam yam tanum, whichever form of a deity, Yahya, whosoever with desires, shraddhaya archam ichchati, wants to worship with faith or become imbued with devotion, tasya satsya vidatmahi aham, I bestow in him, tameva achalam shraddham, steady faith towards that form of deity. Sri Krishna says that he is the creator of faith in the Anya Devatas as well. And when he finds people worshipping the Devatas for the fulfillment of the material desires, he helps them in their devotion and steadies their faith. The ability to create Shraddha or faith is beyond the capacity of the Devatas. It is the indwelling Paramatma who inspires the faith in the hearts of the devotees. Then one may ask, why Supreme Lord creates faith in people towards Anya Devatas? Is it appropriate? Well, when he finds that some ignorant Jivatma engages in the worship of Devatas for material gains, he helps them by studying their faith. He is aware that this experience will help in the evolution of Jivatma, and once they acquire the true knowledge that the Supreme Lord is the highest good of everything, they will surrender to him. In verse 29 of chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, any worship done to a finite Devata will go to Sri Krishna, and Krishna will bless the devotee through that particular deity. This is all to show that Krishna is infinite and all other Devatas are finite. Verse 22. Satya shraddhaya yuktaha tasya radhanam ite labhyate cha tata kamam mayeva vihitam hitan. Sri Krishna reiterates in this verse that the Devatas do not have the capacity to fulfill the material desires of the devotees. They can only grant the wishes if God permits. The devotees with mediocre understanding may think that they have obtained the desired material objects by pleasing the Devatas. However, it is not the Devatas, but God who facilitate everything. Satya shraddhaya yuktaha, endowed with faith in that Devata, tasyaradhanam ihete, indulges in the worship of that deity, labate tattha kamaha, he is able to fulfill more and more desires because of that bhakti. Mayeva vihitam kamam, However, it is I who fulfill all the desires through devatas. Two factors which dictate the fulfillment of desires, next slide please, are unwavering and intense faith in anugraha and prayatna by the self. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Colonel Sir, for your nice explanation of these two verses, where Shri Krishna says it does not matter to which devata you pray. Ultimately, all the prayers come to me and all the blessings come from me only. And again, the subtle message is, when you can get everything, why do you want to settle for something less? But through all these processes, Krishna reinforces our bhakti in being able to get whatever our desires are. What are the limitations of Sakama Bhakti? Dr. Sundar will explain to us in these three verses. Over to you, Dr. Sundar.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We have seen earlier in the 13th verse, Lord Krishna give the reason for samsara as being lost in the apara prakriti, not able to see the para prakriti. In the next verse, he gave us the solution in the form of bhakti or prapatti. In the 16th verse, Lord Krishna then divides bhakti or bhaktas into 4 levels: artha artharthi, jijnasu, and jnani bhakti. Of these, we can see the jnani bhakta as the culmination in the journey. We are then left with artha artharthi and jijnasu. Now, the discussion in the following verses is about artha artharthi being seen as sakama bhaktas and jijnasu being seen as nishkama bhaktas. So the discussion here is to evolve, as we have already seen, from sakama bhakti to nishkama bhakti. Verse 20 defined how the sakama bhakta operates. We have seen in the previous 2 verses the plus points of sakama bhakti. Interestingly, Lord Krishna states that sakama bhakti is not sinful, it is valid. When a spiritual unevolved person is there, and for such a person, the sakama bhakti is good enough. But to climb the spiritual ladder, eventually we need to move from sakama bhakti to nishkama bhakti. The reason for that he is going to now give in this set of verses 23, 24, and 25. This section eventually concludes by saying that sakama bhakti is the default bhakti at birth. Now let us see in the following verses what are the minus points of sakama bhakti, why Lord Krishna is forewarning us, don't take to the wrong goal. In this verse 23, antavattu phalam tesam tadbhavat alpamedasam devan deva yajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi. So we can see tesam phalam, the results which accrue to the sakama bhaktas is being described by Lord Krishna as antavat. In this verse, he is forewarning us that sakama bhaktas, although their material wishes are fulfilled by the Lord, their journey is from finitude to finitude. They shall remain in samsara. Pujya Swami Paramarthananda ji describes that there are 3 doshas in all material accomplishments, including a travel to heaven. And he describes these through the acronym BAD, where B stands for Bandhakatvam, A for Atriptikaratvam, and D for Dukkha Mishritatvam. By stating Dukkha Mishritatvam, Swamiji says that any material accomplishments have pain admixed with the accomplishment. How is that so? Whatever material accomplishments I get, there is struggle involved in acquisition, which is in the form of a pain. For preservation and maintenance, again, there is some struggle, which is in the form of pain. And eventually, all material accomplishments, one or the other, they go away. This will also cause pain. Therefore, at all levels, material accomplishments are deceptively admixed with pain. The second defect is atriptikaratvam. How much ever my material accomplishments are fulfilled, I still have some amount of emotional inadequacy in that another person has more and I want more of it now. So Swamiji describes that This is a journey where earlier I was a poor beggar. Now I am a rich beggar. Emotional beggarliness still continues in Sakama Bhakti, whatever be the material accomplishments. The third defect is Bandhakatvam. I lose my freedom because I get addicted to the material accomplishments. I cannot live without them. Whereas our journey towards Jivan Mukti is one of freedom. So Lord Krishna is using strong words, Alpamedasam, the one with little intellect, for Sakama Bhaktas, goading us to move towards Nishkama Bhakti. In this next verse, 24, Avyaktam Vyaktimapannam Manyante Mam Abuddhayaha Param Bhavam Ajanantaha Mam Avyayam Anuttamam. Again, we can see Lord Krishna calling the Sakama Bhaktas Abuddhaya, the intelligent ones, unintelligent ones. Here he highlights a second problem which is there in Sakama Bhakti. Vyaktimapannam, God who had manifested for me, becomes avyaktam. It appears as if the God disappears. As we have seen earlier, the mode of operation of Sakama Bhakti is he is using God as a means for material accomplishments. Always our focus is on the end and not on the means. Since God is now being used as a means, my focus is not on God always. My focus is always on the end result, the material accomplishments. So it appears as if my connection with God is fleeting. Only when I want something or when I have difficulties, there is a connection with God. Other times it is not there. However, we can see in the second line of this sloka, Lord Krishna says, the true nature of God is Param Bhavam, Avyayam Anuttamam. Avyayam means God is changeless, means to say that God is Sarvagatam and Nityam. God is there at all points in time and every place. Anuttamam, God is unsurpassed. So how is it that this God who is unsurpassed, the highest, who is there everywhere at all points of time, is missed by most of humanity who is following Sakama Bhakti? That is explained in the next verse. Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrutaha mudoyam nabijananti loko mam ajamavyayam. So Lord Krishna is saying through Yoga Maya, which is the Apara Prakriti, which we saw earlier, which has three gunas, which is Adaram, Maduram, beautiful. So this kind of Samavruta, it envelopes the Para Prakriti. And therefore, the higher form of God is Naham Prakasha Sarvasya. It is not available. Lord Krishna is using another strong word here, Mudaha. The tragedy is the ever evident, the closest, always available God is missed because it is veiled by the Apara Prakriti. So Lord Krishna ends this section again by reiterating that the true nature of God is Ajam Avyayam. So Lord Krishna is telling the effort being same, the tragedy is we are working for far inferior results, whereas we could have attained to the highest form of God. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sundar, for a nice explanation which talks about the limitations of Sakama Bhakti. When God can give you everything, why resort for the limitations? Ishvara is everywhere. In a way, God can never be away from us. If at all we think God is away from us, it is because of the misconception, because of Maya. Again, we need the same Brahma Vidya to tell us and reassure us that God can never be away from us at any time. The last class that we will have in the next class, where we will shift from Sakama to Nishkama. We will see the glory of Nishkama Bhakti. And this chapter will very seamlessly flow into the 8th chapter. The 8th chapter is sometimes called as an odd man out chapter because there are some things which are so different from the rest of the Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, but a very beautiful chapter itself. And instead of saying at the conclusion of the 7th chapter, Krishna says, I will reveal to you my true nature, which is in the form of Jnanam and Vijnanam. Instead of saying, all this what I have told you is Jnanam and Vijnanam, Shri Krishna introduces 6 technical terms and talks about the importance of remembering God at the time of birth, at the time of death. And therefore, you have Arjuna beginning the 8th chapter with a series of questions. We will conclude today's class by a chanting of these verses by Shamala Shetty. Over to you, Shamala.
Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Udara sarvaye vaite jnani tvatmaiva me matam asita sahi yuktatma mame vanuttamam gatim bahunam janmanamante Jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti Samahatma sudurlabha Kamaistairhutagnyanaha Prapadyante nyadevataha Tam tam niyamamasthaya Prakrutya niyata svaya Yo yo yam yam tanum bhaktaha Shraddhayarchitumicchati Tasya tasya chalam shraddham Tameva vidadhamyaham Sataya shraddhaya yuktaha Tasyaradhanamihate Labhate cha tatah kaman Mayaiva vihitan hitan Antavattu phalam tesham Tadbhavatyalpamedhasam Devan devayajo yanti Madbhakta yanti mamapi Avyaktam vyaktimapannam Manyante mama buddhayaha Param bhavamajanantaha Mamavyayamanuttama Naham prakashas sarvasya Yogamaya samavrutaha Mudhoyam nabhijanati Loko mamajamavyayam Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
Thank you, Shamala, for the melodious and divine chanting as always. Thank you all speakers for your nice presentations and Dr. Hegde sir for guiding us through today's session. In our next session on Friday, we'll come back with remaining verses in 7th chapter. As always, please log in by 6:45 p.m. on Friday evening. Jai Shri Krishna. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.